The problem, how to render the social science a right scientific method. Any one acquainted with the conditions of national wealth as a detached subject science, not indeed of social phenomena generally, trying and clearing up in the most essential points the aperçu them. Part 1e of Auguste Comte and Positivism. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Auguste Comte and Positivism, by John Stuart Mill. Part 1e. The state of sociological speculation being such as has been described, divided between a feudal and theological school, now effete, and a democratic and metaphysical one, of no value except for the destruction of the former. The problem, how to render the social science positive, must naturally have presented itself, more or less distinctly, to superior minds. M. Comte examines and criticizes, for the most part justly, some of the principal efforts which have been made by individual thinkers for this purpose. But the weak side of his philosophy comes out prominently in his strictures on the only systematic attempt yet made by any body of thinkers to constitute a science, not indeed of social phenomena generally, but of one great class or division of them. We mean, of course, political economy, which, with a reservation in favor of the speculations of Adam Smith as valuable preparatory studies for science, he deems unscientific, unpositive, and a mere branch of metaphysics, that comprehensive category of condemnation in which he places all attempts at positive science which are not in his opinion directed by a right scientific method. Any one acquainted with the writings of political economists need only read his few pages of animadversions on them, 193-205, to learn how extremely superficial M. Comte can sometimes be. He affirms that they have added nothing really new to the original aperçu of Adam Smith, when every one who has read them knows that they have added so much as to have changed the whole aspect of the science, besides rectifying and clearing up in the most essential points the aperçus themselves. He lays an almost puerile stress, for the purpose of disparagement, on the discussions about the meaning of words which are found in the best books on political economy, as if such discussions were not an indispensable accompaniment of the progress of thought, and abundant in the history of every physical science. On the whole question he has but one remark of any value, and that he misapplies, namely, that the study of the conditions of national wealth as a detached subject is unphilosophical, because, all the different aspects of social phenomena acting and reacting on one another, they cannot be rightly understood apart; which by no means proves that the material and industrial phenomena of society are not, even by themselves, susceptible of useful generalizations, but only that these generalizations must necessarily be relative to a given form of civilization and a given stage of social advancement. This, we apprehend, is what no political economist would deny. None of them pretend that the laws of wages, profits, values, prices, and the like, set down in their treatises, would be strictly true, or many of them true at all, in the savage state, for example, or in a community composed of masters and slaves. But they do think, with good reason, that whoever understands the political economy of a country with the complicated and manifold civilization of the nations of Europe, can deduce without difficulty the political economy of any other state of society, with the particular circumstances of which he is equally well acquainted. M. Littré, who, though a warm admirer, and accepting the position of a disciple of M. Comte, is singularly free from his errors, makes the equally ingenious and just remark, that political economy corresponds in social science to the theory of the nutritive functions in biology, which M. Comte, with all good physiologists, thinks it not only permissible but a great and fundamental improvement to treat, in the first place, separately, as the necessary basis of the higher branches of the science, although the nutritive functions can no more be withdrawn, in fact, from the influence of the animal and human attributes than the economical phenomena of society from that of the political and moral. We do not pretend that political economy has never been prosecuted or taught in a contracted spirit, As often as a study is cultivated by narrow minds, they will draw from it narrow conclusions. If a political economist is deficient in general knowledge, he will exaggerate the importance and universality of the limited class of truths which he knows. All kinds of scientific men are liable to this imputation, and M. Comte is never weary of urging it against them, reproaching them with their narrowness of mind, the petty scale of their thoughts, their incapacity for large views, and the stupidity of those they occasionally attempt beyond the bounds of their own subjects. Political economists do not deserve these reproaches more than other classes of positive inquirers, but less than most. The principal error of narrowness with which they are frequently chargeable is that of regarding, not any economical doctrine, but their present experience of mankind, as of universal validity, mistaking temporary or local phases of human character for human nature itself, having no faith in the wonderful pliability of the human mind, deeming it impossible, in spite of the strongest evidence, that the earth can produce human beings of a different type from that which is familiar to them in their own age, or even, perhaps, in their own country. The only security against this narrowness is a liberal mental cultivation, and all it proves is that a person is not likely to be a good political economist who is nothing else. Thus far we have had to do with M. Comte as a sociologist only in his critical capacity. We have now to deal with him as a constructor, the author of a sociological system. The first question is that of the method proper to the study. His view of this is highly instructive. The method proper to the science of society must be, in substance, the same as in all other sciences: the interrogation and interpretation of experience by the twofold process of induction and deduction. But its mode of practising these operations has features of peculiarity. In general, induction furnishes to science the laws of the elementary facts, from which, when known, those of the complex combinations are thought out deductively. Specific observation of complex phaenomena yields no general laws, or only empirical ones. Its scientific function is to verify the laws obtained by deduction. This mode of philosophizing is not adequate to the exigencies of sociological investigation. In social phaenomena the elementary facts are feelings and actions, and the laws of these are the laws of human nature, social facts being the results of human acts and situations. Since, then, the phaenomena of man in society result from his nature as an individual being, it might be thought that the proper mode of constructing a positive social science must be by deducing it from the general laws of human nature, using the facts of history merely for verification. Such, accordingly, has been the conception of social science by many of those who have endeavoured to render it positive, particularly by the school of Bentham. M. Comte considers this as an error. We may, he says, draw from the universal laws of human nature some conclusions, though even these we think rather precarious, concerning the very earliest stages of human progress, of which there are either no, or very imperfect, historical records. But as society proceeds in its development, its phaenomena are determined, more and more, not by the simple tendencies of universal human nature, but by the accumulated influence of past generations over the present. The human beings themselves, on the laws of whose nature the facts of history depend, are not abstract or universal, but historical human beings, already shaped, and made what they are by human society. This being the case, no powers of deduction could enable any one, starting from the mere conception of the being man, placed in a world such as the earth may have been before the commencement of human agency, to predict and calculate the phaenomena of his development such as they have in fact proved. If the facts of history, empirically considered, had not given rise to any generalizations, a deductive study of history could never have reached higher than more or less plausible conjecture. By good fortune, for the case might easily have been otherwise, the history of our species, looked at as a comprehensive whole, does exhibit a determinate course, a certain order of development, though history alone cannot prove this to be a necessary law as distinguished from a temporary accident. Here, therefore, begins the office of biology, or, as we should say, of psychology, in the social science. The universal laws of human nature are part of the data of sociology, but in using them we must reverse the